What's good, Revs fam? My name's Chris, and you're watching Revs Revolt. This week, we're talking Matt Turner. That's right, we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in, and this week, we're talking about the main topic that is on everyone's mind, it seems, as far as on Twitter. Matt Turner. There's a lot to talk about right now about him, but before we jump into that, Revs just wrapped up a game in DC. We won 2-0. Goals from Gustavo Bo late in like the 85th, 86th minute, and then a second goal from the man himself, Adam Buxa, finally getting one. It's been way too long. I think it's been since he scored, was it a header, I think it was, against DC in the MLS's back tourney in the group stages. So happy to see him get on the score sheet. And then we also had some pretty good outings from Tajon Buchanan. He looked really good down the wing. It could have just been from a tired back line on DC's part. But overall, Tajon had a really good game, and it's worth talking about. And then in the back, finally got another clean sheet. It's been a while since we've had one. Henry Kessler and Andrew Farrell. I don't know why I can't remember their names right now, but those two made such a great tandem in the back. Andrew Farrell made one of the best defensive plays of the season, probably, with a last-ditch slide tackle that could have very easily gone wrong. So much kudos to him. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about Matt Polster. He was seemingly having a really good game, connecting on a lot of his passes in the first half, and then in about the 40th, 41st minute, something like that, he went in for a tackle. He won the tackle, and it was very aggressive. But on the follow through, he got kicked in the head, got knocked out. Very, very, very scary. He clearly looked concussed. So nothing but best wishes. Really hope to see Matt back out on the pitch very soon. But other than that, not much else to talk about on the game front. So let's jump into the topic of the video. All right, so Matt Turner. This conversation is a lot spurred by Matt Doyle's ExtraTime tweet or prediction or whatever for the U.S. National Team World Cup Qualifiers, which is coming up in November. And Matt Doyle puts Matt Turner as the number one keeper. He should be the starting keeper is what Matt says. And this has created a lot of controversy online, created a lot of opinions on both sides of the matter. And, you know, frankly, with Zach Steffen being the other option, the other sensible option for a goalkeeper, it's kind of a win-win in my book for where I'm sitting. You have two really, really, really strong keepers. The problem with Zach Steffen is that he's been playing over in Germany for Dusseldorf. He was on loan from Man City last year, and he played mediocre maybe at best, but it was also not a very good Dusseldorf team. That team name is so funny, I can't help but not laugh every time I say it. But he played not well. He did okay, but nothing to make anyone go crazy. Ethan Horvath did way better so far for his career at Club Brugge in Belgium. So I don't know. I'm not sure why so many people are pushing on the Steffen train, saying that he's definitely the number one when he's been playing poor. Horvath, who also is in Europe, has been playing very well. I'm not sure if he's injured right now or anything like that. I haven't seen many reports on him lately, but it comes back to Matt Turner. Should Matt Turner be the number one? He's been playing very well. Obviously, we, as Revs fans, have all been seeing that, and his stats are backing him up. He has crazy save percentage right now. It's like an 808 or something like that, and then probably after tonight's game, it's going to go up even higher because he would have. I don't know how many saves he had tonight. I didn't look at the stats, but he had another clean sheet. That's just going to create a much higher save percentage. So the stats are in the favor, but I still go back and forth on this. I think right now I'm on the Steffen side. only because he does have that European experience. He is with Man City now. He has, his loan has ended with Dusseldorf, and he's now getting cup games for City, which is huge. And there's this one video going around right now that shows how Stefan has been out of position on that one goal that he allowed, and he did not properly plant his feet. He did not cut down the angle correctly. But I mean, we're nitpicking this, and it's his first real game against Premiership opposition. So I think he cut him a little bit of slack. But either way, I don't know what side of the fence to really land on here. And so that's why I have brought in some friends with me. I have Zach and Cam from the Soccer Stats Show podcast. And thank you guys for making that a tongue twister. Gentlemen, hello. Please introduce yourselves. Thank you so much for coming on, and please tell us a little bit about Soccer Stats Show.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Zach from the Soccer Stats Show.
And I'm Cam. Yeah, so Soccer Stats Show, what is we have a podcast that Zach and I created where we just talk about the world of football. Each week we'll have a different focal point. Like our most recent episode, we talked about transfers primarily, but we also will talk about other leagues going on or just international competitions, Champions League, Europa League, Euros, World Cup Qualifiers, whatever. We'll talk about it. And we do talk about MLS with more of an understanding with the Revolution because we are both Revolution fans.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I love that you're called the Soccer Stats Show and you talk about football. So that's fantastic. So yeah, I got a few questions lined up for you guys. Thank you again so much for your time. And first things first, what are your thoughts on the persistent commentary from Charlie Davies around Turner going to Europe? Because he does not seem to stop talking about that. Are there any teams that you have in mind that might need a shot stopper like Turner? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think for the most part, if you're a European team looking at the MLS right now, there's a bunch of talent, imported MLS talent going over to Europe and flourishing, such as Alphonso Davies and Almiron, to name a few. So in terms of scouting, I think the scouting has definitely gone a lot better in MLS, which is why I think Turner is getting looked at for his performances. A lot of European scouts are looking at the MLS as now as a feeder club to get some of these bright talents in. And for Charlie's constant commentary, I think he obviously knows something deeper rather than just bringing up the constant going to Europe phrase that he always just brings up every game. So from that perspective, I think he knows that a club from Europe is looking at him more deeper than just the general interest.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure when it's happened. Obviously, he does have that Lithuanian passport that he recently acquired. But then that's been a multi-year process, so it didn't start recently. So he always had dreams of going to Europe once he decided to go pro. But obviously, as for where he could go, it's too hard to tell because, I mean, I feel like he could go to maybe a low-level Premier League or top 5 European team. So like the Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, any of those, like a lower level team there potentially could go to. But I feel like it'd be more beneficial for him if he were to go to a better team in a lesser division, like if he were to go to like a PSV or Ajax, because I know Ajax is potentially losing Andre Onana, so he could potentially fill in if Onana does leave. So maybe somewhere like an Ajax if they do lose their keeper.
Yeah, and I sorry to interrupt you, but I think a bottom feeder Bundesliga team, so like a Schalke, Mainz, or Union Berlin would be a perfect place for him, like Zach Steffen did last season with Dusseldorf.
Yeah, my only hesitation with that is that Steffen didn't have the best time when he was playing there, so I don't know if it would be the best for Turner's career to go to a bottom feeder. I feel like he'd be better off going to a team that's as at least mid-table, if not a top team in their league, which is why I was seeing like Ajax or a PSV in the Dutch league, or it's a top team in the Belgian league. So some along those lines, I feel it'd be better for his career.
I think that's a solid point, and I'd love to get myself a Turner Ajax jersey, I gotta say. That would be pretty sweet. Can I ask? You mentioned mid-table Premiership team, possibly. So, are we thinking like an Everton, following Tim Howard's steps?
I was thinking more along the lines of, I mean, even you could say like Leeds, possibly. I'm saying like some purely mid-table teams, like they're almost like Leeds, Southampton. I didn't throw Newcastle in there, but they had a solid goalkeeper today, so maybe not them. So I think he'll actually get some game time. That's the key thing, though. He needs to get game time. He goes to Europe.
Absolutely, 100%. But all right, so moving on then, I guess for the national team, onto the topic that spurred everything. Do you think Matt Turner should be the number one for the U.S. men's national team?
Eventually. Not now, but that's only because Berhalter's system favors Stefan a lot more. And obviously with Stefan playing in Pep Guardiola's system now, being integrated with that possession-based system that they have, I think Stefan is definitely going to largely benefit from that, and he's going to fit into Berhalter's system a lot more. But with that being said, I think Turner's distribution has been largely improved this season, with him seeing large over-the-top through balls to Gustavo Bo in some games in the MLS's back tournament. But then you have other goalkeepers such as Brad Guzan, who's there for the leadership, and Bill Hamid. But I think it's Turner's and Stefan in an arm-in-arm race, but I think Stefan just edges him out right now for that number one spot.
Zach, yeah. I love that you brought up the Berhalter points as well, because they had the time together as well in Columbus. So great point on that too. Sorry, don't mean to cut you off, Cam.
No worries. For my opinion, I do agree, though. I think eventually Turner will become the number one for the U.S. national team, but I would give it a year at least. I'd say if there were a game, like obviously with the November qualifiers coming up, I would say Stefan gets the nod. However, I think maybe next November or come the 2022 World Cup, I could see Matt Turner potentially being a starter. And I think it really comes down to shot-stopping ability, because I think both goalkeepers have pretty solid distribution, maybe a slight edge to Stefan, but I think what really is a huge benefit to Turner is his shot-stopping ability. Obviously, Stefan is one of the better penalty kick stoppers in MLS, along the lines of like a Nick Raimondo. So if a penalty situation, I would give the edge to a Stefan. But in regular games, I would 100% give the shot-stopping edge to Matt Turner. Even though he is less experienced than Stefan, and obviously because Turner started later in his career, but I would 100% say that Turner has a more natural form, because obviously in that video that you mentioned has been going around, it was talking about the stance, and it was a very key note, though. Stefan had a bit of a narrow stance. Obviously he could work on that and improve, have a better chance at saving things. But I personally believe that Matt Turner, he's more of a naturally gifted goaltender compared to Zach Steffen, who's been more trained to be that way. So I think if Turner can train a bit more and get that move to Europe, which I think he might get in the next year or two, I think Turner will become the number one goalie for the U.S. national team.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those points. Very good insight. And I got one more question, I guess, would be, what would be the biggest hindrance that you think Matt Turner has to that's going to stop him from his progression with the U.S. men's national team?
I think it's just that distribution. If you're asking me, I think distribution has been the weakest part of his game. He's an incredible shot stopper, so that's not going to be a hindrance on him. But I think it's that distribution, because specifically the way Berhalter is going to play, and he's going to be the coach going forward, whether some of us like it or not. Yep. He has this possession-based football that he needs everyone on the pitch to get. And I think at the moment, Matt Turner doesn't have that distribution sharpness just yet, which is why I give Stefan the one-up on him. So I think that's going to be the biggest hindrance on Matt Turner, is that distribution.
For me on this one, obviously I do agree that the way Turner plays, obviously an incredible shot stopper, but the way he plays doesn't necessarily fit in the Berhalter system. But I actually do think the biggest hindrance to Matt Turner getting appearance for national is actually his current badge, the Revs. I feel like the way Berhalter wants to, he wants to try and eliminate the MLS connection. Like, he wants to have some MLS players because you need to, but he would prefer going with, obviously Zach Steffen's currently playing for Man City. That's one of the biggest clubs in the world currently, so of course he's going to get the nod. Ethan Horvath, he's at Club Brugge. He's going to get the nod as well. And obviously with Guzan, he'll probably get a call because he's the most experienced, like what's happened with Tim Howard in the final years of his career.
Yep.
But I think Turner's, he's the second best goalkeeper the U.S. has. I do think the reason why he isn't going to be getting at least an important cap is purely because he plays for the Revs and not a big team or at least a European team.
So do you think that has to do with the actual badge itself? Or do you think that's more because he's not going to be facing as quality opposition, so he's not going to be seeing the high-end players week in and week out?
I think it is the badge because, I mean, look at the MLS, the equality is really increasing a lot. Like just obviously, Gonzalo Higuain just joined MLS.
Yep.
It's a lot of really good players in MLS right now, but obviously, yeah, it's not the same level as like what Chelsea has or United. What all the top teams here have. But Steffen's not necessarily even playing for them. He's the backup to Ederson.
Yeah.
So he's not even facing the same level of players that Matt Turner is. So I do think it's because Turner's playing for an MLS team, especially being the Revs, who've notoriously not been a winning team. They don't win anything really. They've been struggling in recent years. I do think that is a huge issue and why Turner's not going to be playing for the national team, at least in important games. He'll probably get a friendly appearance here or there, but he won't be the number one.
Awesome. Well, Zach, Cam, thank you guys so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your insight. And before I let you go, care to let all the viewers know where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my personal Twitter at BoasMagic. And for you, Cam?
You can follow me on my personal Twitter, which is at cmoney008.
And you can follow us at our Twitter at Soccer Stat Show on Twitter. Also listen to us on Podbean at the Soccer Stat Show and Spotify. And we recently are trying to get approved for the iTunes. Stay tuned. We'll be on there shortly. So at Soccer Stat Show on Podbean, Spotify, and eventually iTunes.
Very awesome, guys. And all those links are going to be down in the description as well. Thank you again. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night and enjoy this Revs win.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers. So there you have it. According to our community experts, and that's right, they are experts, according to me, Matt Turner is not going to be starting for the U.S. men's national team, at least within the next year. But he will be starting in the future, and I think that's something exciting to think about. And I don't disagree with anything that they really said. It makes a lot of sense to play Steffen. I think Turner might be the hot hand that we have right now, but it still makes sense to play Steffen, especially when we're talking World Cup qualifiers. And Matt Turner doesn't have any experience playing for the national team at all, other than, he's been called up a couple times and he's done a couple of sessions that they've had, but he hasn't got capped. He hasn't played. He doesn't have any competition experience. So, huge shout out to the guys from Soccer Stats Show for coming on, giving us their time and insights, and definitely don't forget to go check them out. So if you like the content that I'm putting out, please hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't subscribed already, and leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, because a lot of people are talking about this. Matt Turner, Zach Steffen, who you got? Ethan Horvath? I don't care. Drop it down below. Let me know. Get involved. Find me on Twitter at Revs Revolt. Send me an email. Again, please send me an email. I say this every week. I still haven't gotten an email. RevsRevolt@gmail.com. Or join me Sunday night for when I stream my recordings of these videos on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Revs Revolt. And that's all I got. Everybody have a great night. Hope you're still running high off last night's win. Go Revs. Peace.